Yeah, where was I?
You were at the part where she was on the phone?
She's on the phone, and I'm like, who are you calling or something? And she was like, oh, I'm calling my dad. I was like, oh, okay, or some shit. And then I was like, fuck this. So we left, and
Next thing you know, we're halfway
yeah,
like down
and
the
we're
street.
walking down the streets, and we see the cops drive by. And I think of Utah, oh, we
like,
should
let's just
run
go.
or something. I was
Run.
like, no, fuck that, let's just walk. And then, like 5 minutes later, the cops come and they pull us over. And then like, oh, they were like, oh, what's your names? I was like, oh, I'm Matt. And then like Cameron's like, oh, I'm Cameron. And then like, oh, then they were like, oh, then you must be Utah. Like they knew his name. Like they knew all three of our names, but they didn't know like which one was who. She called the cops. That's who she was on the phone with. And like she sits up, and the cops are just sitting there. And they told us to sit down or whatever, and we're just sitting there for like 20 minutes, and they're in the background just talking about some random shit like, "Oh, what'd you do on Thursday?" I don't know. Fuck my wife, some shit, and we're just sitting there doing nothing, like sitting. I remember like, was it that time? Like I sat back, like with my hands like that, like we're sitting on the curb, and I sat back, like leaned back like that, and like sit up straight. I was like, all right, what the fuck? So yeah, pretty much it. Like.
Danny told us.
Oh yeah, and they're like they just pretty much told us like, oh, just stay away from her. I was like, how are we gonna stay away from her? She's like in all our classes. And he was like, oh, just move to this like the other class or something. Like move to the other side of the class. So I was like, still doesn't really make a difference. Like, I would just stay away from her. I don't know, whatever. That's pretty much it. Dick.